Sirens, Slammers, and Service, a podcast for female first responders by female first responders. My name is Nikki Clucci, and I will be your host. As a former correctional officer in Alberta for almost 2 decades and the founder of Blue Line Fitness Testing, which provides law enforcement fitness testing and first responder wellness workshops, I started this podcast as a way for female first responders to share the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of their daily work. I want to showcase the unique perspectives, skill sets, and personalities that women bring to a first responder career and share their stories. So get ready to laugh your ass off, learn a whole bunch, and be inspired by some pretty badass women. Let's go.
You guys, oh my gosh, we are back, and I have brought back a rock star guest. Today, I am joined all the way from Texas once again by Bridget Truxillo. Bridget was formerly on the show in season 2, you guys, 10 seasons ago. Can you freaking believe it? 3 years ago. It's insane. Bridget is the owner of Lady Law Shield, and she is an attorney that is helping all of our first responders with their job-related issues. She's got a monthly newsletter that is packed with some great tips on ways to kind of avoid conflicts. And also, if you're in it or you're navigating through it, things that you can do to protect yourself. And so she's decided to come on back and share some more insane, amazing knowledge. So welcome back, Bridget. How are you?
I'm good, Nikki. I'm wonderful. And I also cannot believe it's been 3 years. It feels like 6 months ago.
It totally does. It totally does. So for context, if you guys did not listen to the first episode, Bridget came to us, was previously law enforcement, including the SWAT team, Undercover Narcotics, again, out of Texas. And she has built this legal and wellness empire, and it's designed to protect and empower our first responders, especially women. So we're going to break down again some more phenomenal advice, stories, things like that we can utilize for any first responder out there that may be struggling, that maybe you're just in the early stages, there's an investigation against you, or there's been a complaint, or maybe you're like saying, I need help because I need to make a complaint against my agency or against a coworker. And so Bridget's going to drop some truth bombs and some knowledge bombs on us today, guys, and we're going to learn a ton. So take it away, Bridget. What do you got for us? What's the first thing that we need to know about all of this?
We need to know all of it. So I do put the newsletter out, like you said. I do it once a month. And I've talked about before that so many times, well, for anybody who's been through it, I've been through it, you've been through it. I mean, there's a reason why I left law enforcement is when you're in it, you feel like, I can't believe this is happening to me. It shouldn't be like I'm one of the good ones. This should be happening to somebody else. You feel like nobody cares. You feel like nobody's paying attention and nobody's doing anything about it. And in my newsletter, I try to give you, I call it a field training guide, because I really want it to be something where you get little bits of information once a month so that we're planting those seeds in your brain, just like you train with firearms a lot, or any of the high liability stuff, driving, so that you can do it like in the military. You train so that when you react, you can do it automatically without having to think about it, so that those fine motor skills go away. Well, I want that to be how your brain and body works when you start being treated unfairly at work, because you're already in a profession that challenges your mental health. You're never the same person coming out of law enforcement or as a first responder as you were going in. You hopefully do, or should, and there's lots of tips out there to do this, is hopefully are proactively doing things for your mental health, sleep, nutrition, exercise, all those things. But even without problems at work, you should be doing those things just by nature of what the job is, the danger, the mayhem, the filth, the anger, the violence, whatever. Seeing dead people, all those things stay with you. And so when something happens at work that you feel is unjust, it is much more concentrated than what would happen to somebody in the civilian world. How do I know that? Because I've dealt with jerks outside of law enforcement, and it didn't feel, and I remember thinking after I got out of law enforcement and dealing with a jerk boss, and all of a sudden I was like, holy crap, this happens everywhere. But then it wasn't the same, because I had first of all, I was a little bit older and had the don't give a whatever bleep as much. I gave all my F's at the sheriff's office.
Yeah.
So I but when you're in law enforcement, it is much more concentrated. It does feel, because you're already at like almost at capacity. And so it may push you over the edge. I've had clients come to me, or potential clients, who either have attempted suicide or have contemplated suicide, because they start to feel like, especially when they've been enduring it for a really long time, they start to feel like, well, maybe I'm the problem. And then they start to think, well, I could eliminate the problem. And while not every case is that extreme, you definitely, it's sort of a slap in the face or a punch in the gut. And you think, I can't believe this is happening to me. I can't believe I've given so much of my life to this. And so I put these examples, like in the newsletters, I give tips, what you should do. For example, you should always write everything down, because you think like, oh, it's not a big deal, I'm going to let it go. Nope, write it down anyway, because maybe in a year from now, you're going to decide you're not going to let it go. And you're going to need to remember very specific details. And you are going to need to name names. So whether you're just sharing that list with a confidential person like me, like an attorney, or for yourself, you do have to provide comparator facts going forward, especially if you're reporting it internally. You can't go and say, well, I feel like I've been treated unfairly. And they're going to look at that and be like, nah, that's unfounded. But if you go in with cold, hard facts, dates, examples, names, that's much harder for them to ignore that. So you think that's simple. Like, of course I'm going to write it down, Bridget. Like, well, but most people don't. And they ignore it. And they think, oh, I'll just let this go. I'm going to keep my head down. I'm just going to do my job. I was like, if I just keep working hard, they're going to respect me someday. Like, that's just not how it works. And so we put in things like, write it down. What do I mean by writing? Like everything I just said, I'll write that down in the newsletter and say, but here's like, write it down. But specifically, here's what I mean by what you should write down. And then I give examples of the type of calls we get, because I want the reader to feel, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one. I'm not alone. Like, no, you're never alone. And then I give examples of how we help. And people are like, oh, I didn't know that was an option. Or like, it's because it's not always a lawsuit. And so I think first and foremost, it starts with me telling people, just stop suffering in silence. You definitely know if something's happening to you and it's not right, and you should do something about it. Number one, like I already said, for your mental health, but also number two is they can't and won't fix it if you don't report it.
Yes.
That's the other thing I talk about a lot, is you must put them on notice. And it could be something like obvious, or like maybe they're violating a policy internally and you know it and they know it, but nobody's doing anything about it. And you think, well, they already know they're messing up. Like, I don't care. Did you report it? No. Well, let's go report it. And I help people do that. Let's write it in the right way. And so definitely thank you for bringing up the newsletter, because I just want you to have those tools, because then maybe you'll never need to call somebody like me. But more importantly is that you'll start to be able to take control of your life. And that's very important. Like, even if you just know, okay, here's the steps I can take. That's very powerful to feel like you can do something. And that's so important for your mental health. That's why I do what I do, is so I can help improve the lives of all first responders out there.
I think it's so, like you said, there's a couple of things that you said in there that I want to touch on, because the number one that I hear is, writing it down right from the hop. Because I know for me, when I was traveling through my crap and all the things that were happening to me, I didn't write down those initial things. And so when you put together the entirety of the situation, you're actually missing the first 3 years of all the bullshit, because you didn't write it down, and you just kind of and you knew it was happening, and you kind of include it in your well, for this has been happening for multiple years, but it's like, no, you need to be writing it down right off the hop, because those little things are usually what compound to make it the big freaking issue at the end, where they've built and built and built. And because nothing was done at the lowest stage, and nothing was reported, and nothing was called out, and nothing was, like you said, held to task on that, then those little things just build up and get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then turn into the giant issue. And the second thing that I really like that you said is, to know that there's even what to do next. Because I know for me, being under investigation, one of the scariest things and one of the most stressful things for me, because I am very much a problem solver. If something happens, like, oh, shit hits the fan, I am instantly into, how am I problem solving this? Kate, how are we pivoting? What do we need to do? What actions do I need to take to mitigate this, deal with it? get it done, put it to bed, like whatever it is. And when you're under investigation and you're at the mercy of your agency or the law or the whatever, right? The policies that you're waiting for, it moves at a glacier pace. And so that whole entire time you are wondering, well, what happens next? Well, what about this? Well, if they do come back and say this, then what do I do? And so you can spiral so fast because your brain is just going, well, I don't know what's going to happen and I don't know what to do. And you're thinking 38 different scenarios. And from that, compounding another 38 different, if the flow chart, if we go this way, this happens. If we go this way, this happens. And that I found for me, that was one of the worst things. That was really what caused me to get into that panic state and to start to have panic attacks and to start to have that oh my, because you're so out of control. You have no idea what to expect. You have no idea what could happen, what couldn't happen. You don't know. Again, they're coming at it from the expertise side of things of oh, well, this person did this. And so our flow chart says they should get fired. They should go to mediation. They know what they're doing, but you don't know. You don't know what the process is, right? And so to have somebody like you to be able to go, okay, we've done this. So the next step is going to be this. And if this happens, we do this. And if this happens, we do this. That alone to me, having been in that situation, if somebody had been able to come to me and say exactly that, I would have been like, okay, I can take a deep breath then. I can knowing that it's either A, B, or C are the three options that could come from this. I can take a breath and I can handle that. And I find that having spoken to other first responders that have gone through things, that to them too is that big stressful point of I just don't know. And I don't want to answer the phone because I never know, or I see the agency phone number pop up on my phone and I'm like, the hell I'm answering that. That can go to voicemail, right? Or I open up my email and there's an email and then I'm dreading, oh, what's this email going to say? Right. And so I think the work that you do is just so important. And I think, again, the pre-education stuff that you're doing of here, just have this in your back pocket. Maybe nothing has happened to you. Maybe you are living in the sunshine and rainbow agency where everything is awesome and you love your job and you love your partner and you love your supervisors and you love your community. And I don't know where that location is.
I don't either.
Please tell me and I will come.
Anybody that feels like that is probably in their first year.
Yes, exactly. But maybe, but it's still good to have it because you never, and that's the third point I was going to bring is I never thought this would happen to me.
Right.
I never thought that I would get embroiled in this. I watched it happen to other people. And we were kind of saying before we started recording, there's some people where I'm like, well, that is just a disaster waiting to happen. I can see it because of their conduct, because of their behavior, because of the actions they take at work, because the inaction they take at work, they're not doing their job, or, they're harassing people or their use of force nightmares. There's people where you can say investigation pending, give it 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, right?
Yep.
But then there's other people, again, like myself, where I was it was like I got smacked in the face and I was just like, what? I'm under investigation?
Right.
What?
Yeah.
So that again, right? To have those things in my back pocket then to have known, okay, yep, I'm under investigation. So I need to now go back and go XYZ. What do I need to do? These are the 3 things I need to do. I need to document. Right? That would have been so helpful.
Yeah. And I think absolutely to know, just know, and here's the other thing I'll say, there is no other way around it, period. And what I always bookend that with, or follow that with is, well, yes, it might be hard, but you chose hard. I say it all the time. You chose a hard profession. You can do this. It sucks that you have to, but you have to do it. And there is absolutely no way around it. You will never work yourself out of, meaning, okay, I'll just do my job and this will go away. And maybe in certain circumstances, you transfer away from somebody, but maybe that's only in a really big department. I talk to a lot of people like Dallas Police, that it's a huge agency, and maybe they can transfer to another side of the city where they would never see that person again. Maybe, But number one is, the side effect of that is if you're not reporting it, that's going to happen again. And how are you going to feel knowing that maybe you could have prevented it? Like I've helped a couple of ladies out of a certain department in Texas that's big, that we reported it, it got fixed. And we're hoping that the decision makers will be held responsible. But the upside is that number one, it got fixed. And number two, there is going to be a record of that because we did internally report it, and they did look into that for that person. And so regardless of whether or not, like, I want them fired and they should be given, ding them and give them some days off. Does that always happen? No, it doesn't. But it's definitely not going to happen if you don't say something about it. And it's definitely not going to stop if you don't say something about it. So that was one of my biggest regrets at the sheriff's office is I just kept like, I'm just going to work and keep my head down. I'm just going to work and keep my head down until literally to the point where I'm driving to work thinking, please let them leave me alone today. Please let them leave me alone today. And then to the point where I was like, here, middle fingers to all of you. I'm quitting. I'm leaving. And then I left, and they spent a ton of money on me. And the amount of time I was there between SWAT and narcotics, and we had an agency that was great, and we got a lot of training anyway. So, and that was a huge financial loss for them, like to have spent that much money on me just to force me out. But also, I don't regret any of that in the sense that I can be here now today to help in this very specific way. But I do regret never officially reporting any of it and naming names, and so that they were on notice of it and maybe doing something about it going forward. And also want to say, it doesn't always involve naming a person necessarily. Like, yes, maybe the IA investigator made a mistake, intentionally or not, and like they refused to let you watch your body-worn camera video in an investigation. Almost everywhere across the country now has some kind of rule that gives you the right to watch that video if they're going to question you about what happened in that video. In some states or some areas, what are y'all called? States or provinces? I can't remember.
Provinces.
Yes.
Yeah, provinces.
There's always usually a rule or a law about an officer's rights in that. Like where I am in, so like I know, for example, in Texas, there's a state law that says every agency must have a policy on giving an officer access to that video. Well, in my instance, this guy got investigated. The investigator wouldn't let him look at the video. He pointed out that not only do they they didn't have the policy, and that's in violation of state law. So we reported it outside of the agency to the to the district attorney's office and said, hey, they're violating state law. Well, guess what? We got it fixed. So did anything happen to the investigator? No, because the chief stood behind the investigator, but they now have a policy, and every officer was required, every time they change a policy, they force it out and you're supposed to sign for it. So hopefully you read those policies, because also as your attorney, I'm going to say you're held accountable for knowing those policies, whether you've read it or not. And second, read it, because then you know what your rights are, because you can say, I will answer your question. You know that you can't refuse an internal investigation. You have to go. But if you also have rights. So if they say, I'm going to ask you a question about this, you can say, I will answer your questions, but I have the right to look at this video first. So let's do that. And hopefully you have an advocate there for you, whether it's an attorney or a rep or somebody. But if not, read the darn newsletter so that you can have that planted in your brain that little flare will go off and think, oh, no. Maybe I have rights about this. Let me ask. And so definitely there are lots of ways you can advocate for yourself, impact change, and there are ripple effects to that, even if you don't necessarily see them or feel them right away. It's not always a tidal wave, but it does make a difference. And because I refuse to live a life otherwise. And then second, I do believe what you put out in the world comes back, and good or bad. So let's put the good things out so that the good things come back. And like I said, it's not always quick. It's not always like taking a Tylenol for pain. I mean, it's not always that quick, but I do believe it makes a difference. And I think that's what also helps you feel good about yourself is if you are standing up for yourself, that means you are impacting others, making an impact for others. And at the end of the day, that always feels good to people.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Blue Line Fitness Testing is a premier law enforcement fitness testing and training center based in Edmonton. Specializing in helping individuals prepare for the physical demands of a career in law enforcement, we offer comprehensive fitness evaluations, specialized training programs, and classes tailored to meet the unique needs of our clients. Our facility hosts a range of classes and are committed to fostering a supportive and empowering environment where clients can achieve their fitness goals. Our team includes experienced trainers who bring specialized expertise in law enforcement, self-defense, personal training, and rehabilitation. We engage through our community through challenges, events, and our podcast, and we are dedicated to helping individuals succeed in their fitness journeys and career aspirations in law enforcement. Are you looking to get started with your career? Come see Blue Line Fitness Testing, and we'll get you there.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And those, like, again, like these are precedent setting things, right? This investigation is now going to be used for every other investigation that falls under a similar umbrella category, situation, right? And so if you can get it so that it ends up being better for other people, however that may work, do it, right? Do it. And like, yes, I mean, oftentimes that is hard. Like you said, that could, you being the sacrificial lamb sometimes sucks, and it really is hard. But like you said, if it means that the officers that come behind you aren't going to have to go through that because now it's in writing, it's in policy, it's in, that precedent has been set that cannot be blamed on you, or that this is not investigated, you can't be investigated for this because it just happens. Like that alone, helping however many other staff at the time when you're in the shit and you're like barely hanging on, you're not really thinking about that, but that long-term lasting legacy that you can leave, I think is huge. I actually had a guest on last season, Joanne Fraser. And so she was an RCMP Canadian Mountie for basically 30 years. And she took the RCMP to the Supreme Court over payout. So she had gone on to like a part-time like pay, and had taken, like, I can't remember how it was, and I should know this because we talked about it for a little bit, but she had taken kind of like an adjustment in her duties, and they had said, oh yeah, you can buy back your pension for that time when she originally signed for it. And then when she went to go retire and essentially buy back her pension, they were like, oh no, that actually no. And she was like, well, no, there's like, I chose to do it because that was the option.
Yeah.
And the RCMP was like, nope. And again, Joanne, the sacrificial lamb, it took 20 years for it to go all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada, for the ruling to come down in her favor. So Fraser versus Canada, if you haven't listened to that episode, guys, go back to season 11, Fraser versus Canada. She won that ruling and basically gave thousands of members and any other federal agent, like federal employee, the ability to buy back that retirement time. Now that's hundreds of thousands of dollars for these people. That could be make or break for some of these people that worked that time. Right. And so, yes. And when I talked to her, while she was in it, she's like, oh, Nikki, I wanted to give up so many times. I wanted to just be like, I just don't want to fight anymore. I just don't want to, it's too hard. This is taking too long. And she goes, but once I got to the end and I realized like how big this actually was and how many people it was going to help, she's like, it was worth the battle. It was worth the fight. It was worth the time and the energy that I had to put towards it, because I know now, look at all these people that I've helped.
Yeah.
And all these people that are to come still that will be helped. And she's like, so yes, did I think I left a legacy within the RCMP for my general duty work? No, but I sure as dang well left this legacy with this. And I said, you know what? Absolutely. So yeah.
Yeah. And that is amazing result. And I hear a lot of cases where the decisions that agencies makes, especially towards the end of your career, can significantly impact your financial outcome going forward. And that is a very good situation or example of where, like, you've got to get help for that, because especially if there's a lot of money on the line, no governmental agency is going to be like, oh, you're right, here's all your thousands of dollars, here you go. It is a fight to get money from the government. And I also say this to people is that I'm just a dork that way, and there's public policy behind that, because you're giving out taxpayer money. Like that's not like you're not going out and selling more shirts and bringing in more money. It's a set amount of money coming from citizens. And so they have to be careful about where it goes. Now we all hear stories about, like, they're not always seem careful about where that goes, but that's another episode. And who cares to talk about that all the time? Anyway, but there's only so much of it to go around. So they have to be careful with how they do it. So they have to have, make sure, like, and there are limits to what you can get in that situation. I mean, like that can be retroactive all the way. Like, no, it's legit lost pay that they said they were going to, and that's like a contractual issue. You said you were going to do it. So do it. It's just that simple. But I do hear a lot of times where it does feel vindictive. There's people that are like screwing up people's careers and doing it. What I also want to say, and I will tell my clients, like, look, we might have some facts that show that this is vindictive. You're going to definitely feel like this is vindictive, but we've got to try and write it like a police report, meaning we've got to push this forward to be able to say, okay, but because not everybody's sitting around just trying to scheme against you. It feels that way because it's happening to you. But in reality, they're living their own lives and they're going forward each day. And sometimes these things have to work through the process, and it just is never fast going through the government to get stuff. So again, that's why I say, like, especially when you're at the higher level, when there's a lot more money at stake, you certainly want to get somebody who can help you advocate for that, because you will get bogged down real quick in all the things that they throw back at you. And it's going to feel real easy to quit. So kudos to her and whoever her advocates were to stick with it. Because I think there's even some attorneys that are like, man, I don't want to keep doing this. But especially after 20 years, that's extreme.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and she was saying too, if the RCMP had just agreed at the beginning of this whole thing, I think she said they would have had to pay out, it was like 10 or 15 staff across the country who had taken this tiny little, okay, we'll take that option, right? And she said at the end of it, 20 years later, it was thousands of staff that had taken it over the 20 years, right? And she said, like, if they would have just done the right thing, right? Done the right thing 20 years ago versus how much more money they had to pay out, including all the lawyers' fees and everything, right? Like it's crazy. And I'm glad you touched on that, because the financial part, I think, is the other side of things that I think a lot of people may hesitate to actually act on when there is an issue, because there's that worry of like, well, if I go off, like they're going to put me off on this leave, which is only 60% of my pay, or they're going to, they're going to fire me and then I have no pay, or they're going to, or I'm going to go off on leave and I'm not going to have, my benefits, or there's like certain, depending on what agency and what your leave requirements are. And I think that is something that scares people, is that, this is a could be potentially a huge financial hit to me, my family, the people that I'm trying to support. And I think it is important, like you said, to know that, yes, you do recognize that, you do know that is, a key part of this, process and what needs to be done, but that the work that you're doing is going to hopefully be able to recoup that financial for them, or able to give them what they deserve or what they're owing, or what, is due to them. Because I think that is something, like I said, for me, it was like, I just was off on leave and was like, okay, well, I'm still getting my regular paycheck and, But then it was like, well, yeah, that's going to end in another month. And then what? Right. And for me, I just was like, same thing. Well, double fingers up to you. See you later. I'm not going to be dragged through the ringer on this for nothing, for what I know at the end is going to come out as a completely false allegation, completely false investigation. My reputation has already been trashed. So I might as well just pull the pin and say, screw you. Because again, the rose-colored glasses have now fallen off. I see this agency for what it is, and I can no longer unsee that. So I can no longer, in good moral and ethic compass of my own, stay working for an agency like that. Right. And so, but yeah, that worry was there, definitely financially. And then when you quit, what the frick am I going to do now? Wait, I need a paycheck. Right.
I really was at a loss when I left, because I chose law enforcement on purpose. And I was going to do that for the rest of my professional life. And people are like, oh, but you went to law school. I'm like, but because I knew law school wouldn't be a bad thing, but I had no idea what I would do with it, because I also knew I didn't want to be a cop again. Whatever stage you're on in your career, you must protect yourself. Early on, you have a long time to go. You want to make sure this doesn't impact what your opportunities are going forward. Midway through your career, you're looking at, maybe rising up and maybe impact again, the long-term part of your career. What divisions do you want to be in? What do you have? I could give lots of examples of things, and I don't want to go off on too long of a tangent. Or at the end of the career where you maybe don't care about any of that stuff anymore, and you're just wanting to make sure that your pension is in the right place. Or like certain states, like they may have a drop, like in Florida, for example, they have a drop program that you can enter the last 5 years where it significantly increases, or you can extend 5 years, and it significantly increases what your payment is. I mean, I've had many cases where they come in and they cut them off right at the deadline, or that's their opportunity, where, significantly impacting the entire family's financial plan for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, depending on how old you are. And so you really must put people on notice of those things. So 3 things. One is you want to put people on notice of those things. And I'm not saying drive your patrol car through the front doors and set things on fire. There's a wrong way to do it. Yeah. I'm saying put things in writing. It's not like you say, listen, with all due respect, I need to put you on notice of X, Y, Z. And then second is take advantage of every single avenue of support you have available to you. If you're in a union, and if that works out, it wouldn't have worked out for me because my union rep was one of the problem children. But in other places, you have an attorney that you have direct access to it's paid for with your dues. Go make sure you talk to them about it. I'm not saying that always is the end of the provide all the answers. But then third is if it's something like that your union doesn't cover, or you don't have a union, then go find someone. Because my firm, we offer the first level of working for me is, let me look at everything. We get a thorough review of everything. And then we have a meeting and we talk through it all, and we talk through what you're hoping to achieve. And then we give you a written plan of, okay, based on what you've told me, here's what I think the issues are. Here's what I think you can do about it. And then I give you that written plan, and then you can just take that and go. Now, of course, then that rolls over into me doing things for people after that. But you really want to make sure. What if it's something like in the States where we have something called a Brady Giglio list, where you're basically able to label a liar? If the word Brady or Giglio lands into your employee file anywhere, you might not ever be able to be a cop again. And so obviously that's significant. And we do the work to try and fix it and fix that. It's a credibility it's a credibility issue. And what do you do about that? And you definitely need help with it. There's no way you'll navigate that yourself. You need to call the district attorney and ask them what their list is. And then are you the people who prosecute the cases, you have to talk to them about it. You need to call somebody at the department and, who decided that and why. And then they start hiding under rocks, because come to find out, these cops think they know all the laws and they don't. And then they label people and ruin their careers forever. And so you really just want to make sure that you're reaching out to somebody to get the help that you need. And also at my firm, we don't just say, okay, I'll do this for you and then peace out. Our plans involve at least 6 months of, here's what we're going to do over the next 6 months. Here's what we're going to put out. Here's what how we're going to follow up here, and all the phone calls and back and forth, because, it's a pretty good chance that if you report something, they're not going to be happy about it. And there could be some, retaliation, and that's not okay. And you need somebody that's nope, that's not okay. Let me send them another email. Let me pick up the phone. And then connecting all the dots for you, because those dots are going to be bouncing around your head like crazy. And you don't know how to put them in order. But it's so important for you, from your mental health, to take action and take care of yourself in the same way that I think you should get 8 to 10 hours of sleep at night. And eat right and move your body and get out in the sunshine whenever you can. So, I mean, to me, this is a mental health tool that's no different than what you do for your physical health.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So what, I know because we're running short on time, but what would you say, and this might be hard to just pull out of, the air, but what would you say your top 3 kind of calls are that you get?
I don't care. It doesn't matter race, gender, because the majority of my clients are still men because it's still the predominant, but for dispatch, it's still predominantly men.
Mm-hmm.
People still say and do the stupidest things. And in today's world where all of that can be recorded at any, I don't care if you're in a place where you're supposed to, it's a 2-party rule, meaning that you're not allowed to record somebody unless the other side's no, I don't know what it is in Canada or if it's different by province, but in the US it's different by state. But that wouldn't matter anyway. That's like, I don't want to make this a law school class, but even if you can't use it in court and there's a recording of it, then I can be like, look, I know the guy said this. Like, I know the chief asked the deputy if she was having sex with her husband. Like, that's a stupid question. Mm-hmm. Actually, in that particular scenario, the chief recorded the conversation because he thought that he could use it against her to show that she was an inept or just not good at her job. And then he asked that stupid question and then turned it over to us. Like, thank you very much. So still very, very common and particularly with females in the profession is harassment and discrimination. And there's really no way around it. I really don't think it's ever going to stop. I do think it gets better because the younger generations don't put up with as much as even when you and I started. And yet, just because you're a female does not mean that you can't, it doesn't mean you're incapable of the job. Mm-hmm. I think that women need to be very cognizant of their abilities. We're not men. We never will be. It's just different, apples and oranges. Mm-hmm. Like, I was always very never going hands-on. I was lucky in the amount of time I was there that didn't happen. But like, if I was going to arrest somebody, I always made sure I had backup. Mm-hmm. I never put my hands on somebody without having somebody to back me up. I just was not stupid enough to do it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I was out in the rural parts of the county where, on the darkest of dark nights, and there's not even a street light anywhere to be had. So like, if he throws me into the woods, like, nobody would find me, till mm-hmm. sundown. If I was lucky. Anyway, so you really, it's harassment, discrimination, the stupid stuff people say. And then going back to what we were saying earlier about one of the reasons you write things down is because you think, oh, well, I did make a mistake. They were, that's fair. Right? No, okay, you're going to put it in my file. Okay, I forgot to fully close. I think maybe, I don't know if you and I talked about this before. I was like, I didn't close the evidence locker all the way. We had these like old school, like middle school lockers for evidence, mm-hmm. and they stayed open with an eraser. Like, it had this little like thing that stuck out. Anyway, I don't know if you have video on this or not, but like a little little hook for the locker, and the only thing that kept it open was one of those old school erasers you used to put on the end of your pencil. Well, you'd take that off and then close the locker all the way. Well, it got close or something. I don't know. It didn't close all the way, and they would access the stuff from the backside. So I got in trouble. They gave me one day off. And even though we had been working, I think like 36 hours straight on something, and there was another guy there with me. And at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? Fine. It was me. And mm-hmm. I remember that other guy being interviewed and me thinking like, but wait, what did you say? Because you should be saying what I'm saying, which is, I was like, you know what? I don't know. So it could have been me. And I don't think that's what the other person said. I think the other person mm-hmm. was like, there's no way it was me. Like, I could have said that too, but mm-hmm. at the end of the day, I'm the one that got a day off without pay over that. And so, but if you combine that with, well, 3 months before that, I was written up or something. And 1 month before that, I was given an extra month of probation. And like, if you put all that mm-hmm. together, you start to think, well, wait a second. I feel like I'm being picked on a little bit. Like, I feel like I have a target on my back. And so I see that a lot is people like, I didn't realize it was so bad until this last thing. Or mm-hmm. people will hear me talk and they're like, oh, I just thought that's how it was supposed to be. Like, no, people, like, unless you're just a really bad, unless you just make a lot of mistakes and you need to be fixed. Everybody makes mistakes all the time. But are yours being written down more than the other person's? And mm-hmm. almost every single time, not every single time, but a lot of it is people come to me saying, yeah, I just won't stop. And it's because I'm Hispanic, or it's because I'm like, one female chief was like, I don't like that Hispanic mustache you have on your face. Like, okay, lady, you can't say that. Dumb. Mm-hmm. Or comments that certainly like age, like you can't go to somebody who's like very experienced in the profession and say, aren't you going to retire at some point? You're getting really old. Like you can't do that. And so, and people on the flip side of that, like the old timers would be like, yeah, people are too sensitive nowadays. Like, but just, we live in a world where you just need to think about what you're saying. And that's where I see all those things. And then retaliation does happen. And those are usually very easy to prove. And we react on those very quickly, whether I file another EEOC claim or I call their attorney right away. And I was like, well, I've done that before. I'm like, what the heck are you doing? Like whether it's retaliation internally or they're trying to report something to another agency to try and come at them. It was like one guy was former military and they called the military investigators. I can't remember which branch it was. And had them, he was trying to claim that he was stealing from the military on the amount of money he was supposed to get. Like, how would you even know that, first of all? And then second of all, why would you? And they tried to get him kicked out of, like whatever you call it in the military when you get in trouble. So I see all that kind of stuff a lot, which is all, but that should not be a reason why you should keep this to yourself. It's too dangerous to you internally and for your happiness and your family's happiness to keep this in. And you got to report it because we can't hold people accountable. But I just see it all, every race, every age, every gender, not so much religious stuff, although I have had a little bit of that. I have seen, like in the U.S. First Amendment violations where they come after cop because of what his beliefs are. And you really, depending on the circumstances, you can't do that. Like if it doesn't interfere, if you're not posting on the job, please also do not post on social media when you're working. Please stop doing that. Anyone, and if you get mad at me for it, great, send me a message and we'll talk about it. That's got to stop. That you will get in trouble for that. But First Amendment things are becoming, depending on where you are, can be a bigger issue.
I love that you said that because one of my friends, and obviously it will remain nameless because he's undercover with one of the units up here. And him and I were just talking. We went for coffee a couple weeks ago. And he's like, you would not believe the amount of information that we can glean off social media when an idiot posts himself in uniform. And like how the organized crime cartels, etc., are able to pull so much information off of that. And he was like, he said the same thing. He's like, if I could give one piece of freaking advice to people, it's like, stop posting yourself in uniform on social media. Like, oh my God, stop doing it. And it was like, and it's funny because to me, like, I don't have, like, people always ask like, oh, show me a picture of you in uniform, and I'm like, I don't have any. Like I literally, I think I have one from when I was on the tactical team. And I think that's like, I don't have a full picture of me in uniform anywhere. I don't have, like, I just don't, because you didn't take a picture of yourself in uniform. No. You didn't get it. Because again, we're going back to the olden days, to all my young listeners, where you had to get your photos developed at Walmart. Right. And like, I don't have any, like you just
canister of film.
Yes, right. Like you just didn't have photos of yourself in uniform. And so to me, it's like, well, duh, I would never post myself in uniform. And like when I was in it, it was a big thing to not have your name in the phone book, right? You didn't want your last name in the phone book. So that's why I kept my maiden name, was because my maiden name was Thompson. There was 4 pages of Thompsons in the white pages. There was only 4 Cluches. And so I was like, well, he's whoever, this inmate will be able to, right?
When I was doing undercover, somehow he got my real name. This was a guy who had sold me cocaine with a gun in his pants. So like, he was this really good young kid. He came from a good family and thought he made a little bit of money selling weed, and then thought he could make a lot more money selling cocaine. And like, dude, you are so out of you're stepping into an alligator infested pond. Anyway, he found out where I lived. And I lived way out in the country. Like you had to pull off the road, open a gate, drive down through a field, open another gate. Like it wasn't even automated. And the snitch that I'd been using called me and said, hey, he knows where you live, and he went out to your house. He was going to knock on your door, but he chickened out. And in our agency, we had to get 3 buys before we could get a search warrant. I think we were at 2. And I called my sergeant. We found out he was in community college. He's just such a dummy. Found out exactly what class he was in. And when he came out of class, myself and my 2 giant sergeants were standing on either side of me, and he looked at us and he just hung his head. And anyway, and it's crazy you say that, because then I very quickly made sure my phone, I was not listed in the phone book. And yes, people, there were these things back in the olden days where every single phone number was printed in this big book and everybody got one. Anyway, yeah. I also used to have a Rolodex back in the day, but I was also an undercover. So I definitely wasn't doing any of that. I do have a few pictures that I just had in my own little photo deck that I put in my photo album in in the book that I got printed. But no, back in the day, there's no way that I would have been advertising that. But that's the other thing. It's a long career, and you're going to be in it long enough to where you're going to post something that's going to mess you up later, whether it's for a promotion or for when you're on the stand. I promise you, a defense attorney, it's too easy to do it nowadays, especially with AI. It is too easy to take it. It's too easy to manipulate it. And it's going to come back to bite you in the butt. It blows my mind. Like you're saying, we used to try so hard to keep our identities hidden, and now they've gone way far the other way. I think it's phenomenal that you're a cop or a firefighter or dispatch or corrections or whatever. But do you really people? I don't understand. I don't understand it in general from a social aspect of why do you need people to give you an attaboy constantly? I think, but that's between we should all have therapists. I highly recommend therapy. I've had my own therapist many times over the years. And you guys should go talk about that, because you're good enough, gosh darn it. And you don't need to be posting all about it all the time.
I love it. I love it. And that it is such a good piece of advice. And it's something that people actually don't think of. And I'm glad that you brought up the recruiting side of things, because again, a lot of the work that I do, right, helping people get into it. And, people always, what can I do to make sure that I got a leg up? Go through your social media, go through it. To start deleting, start taking things off, get rid of it, think of yourself. Yeah, you got to go through that stuff, you guys. You got to go through it. And then when you get in the job, you got to make sure.
It's a pseudo public job. I mean, you're not the sheriff, whatever it's called up there. You're not the one who's running for the office. You're not the one that's head over the whole agency, but you still are in a public front, a job that you're responsible to the public. And that does also affect your freedom of speech issues. You still have rights, but it does affect it in a bit. But you think but it won't ever happen to me. Trust me, I'm here to tell you, crap can happen to everyone. Personally, the things that I got investigated for, I just would never in a million years have guessed somebody would have investigated me for that. I'm sure you felt the same, as it happened to you. And the longer you stay in the profession, if you keep doing this, I put $5 on it and I will shake on it. And I don't pay on bets if I don't shake on them. I also don't like to gamble, so I don't bet more than 5. But that if you keep doing this and you stay in this profession, it's not a matter of if it's going to bite you in the butt. It's just a matter of when. And then again, the way that technology is going nowadays, it's just going to be too easy. It's just wild to me that people do it, especially when you identify your agency. I mean, even if you're trying to be slick about it and hide who your agency is, it's going to come out, I promise. And they're going to tag it. They're going to be able to find out if you did that while you were working, and then you're going to lose your job and your credibility, and then you got to start over. I've had clients where they got accused, and it had to do with social media. He admitted it. So it was never anything lying, and he just made a mistake, and it was a policy violation. But they ended up putting him on a Brady Giglio list, which does not apply. And I was helping him through it. And then he stopped answering my emails. And to the point where about 3 months in, I went full mom mode on him. And I called him and I was like, if you don't call me back, I'm going to call that jurisdiction in your area and make them do a wellness check on you. I mean it. Because I was really worried about it. And that's what happens when you lose your profession in these. That is a consequence. It's happened. It can happen. It will happen. So I hope you hear me. I'm done.
I love it. I love it. You have dropped, again, I knew you would share incredible advice and incredible information. I absolutely knew you would. And I have
one more that's very important tidbit. when it has to do with AI, do not use a free AI tool, especially if you are plugging anything to do with your job into that tool, because it's discoverable. And everything, because it goes out into the big sphere of AI and they're learning from you. Now, how they would ever find that in the sphere of ones and zeros, I don't know. But there's lots and lots of case law coming out that even for experts, for attorneys, for lay people, for whatever, let's say you're my client and I send you something and you want to plug that into free Chat GPT or whatever the tool is, we've lost confidentiality. That started happening this year. That nothing like it's ruining cases. So, and all of that's like they're appealing some of it or whatever. But I'm telling you right now, as a cop, if you're using an AI tool to help write your reports, which I think it's silly to not use AI. Do not use a free tool for that. You can get it could be very bad. So if you hear nothing else I say today, remember that. Do not use a free AI tool.
Incredible. Another great piece of advice. Like, absolutely love that. Because again, it's something that we don't really think about, right? And it's, again, in the 3 years since you've been on the show, it wasn't
a thing. That wasn't a thing 3 years ago. I know.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Totally. Well, like, again, guys, if you haven't, and you're going to now, because if you listen to season 2 and you listen to Bridget's episode, I hope that you signed up for the website then and signed up for the newsletter. But if not, guys, go to the website. All the information is going to be in the show notes. Sign up for this newsletter. It is packed full of great information, you guys. It's not spam. She's not going to blow your inbox up. It's once a month. Tons of great information. And if you are right now stuck in a situation, you don't know what to do, you're scared, you're worried, you are trying to figure out, where to go, what to do, how to do it, you guys, go to the website, ladylawshield.com. You can find Bridget on Instagram at ladylawshield. Go follow her, like, subscribe. She's always posting great stuff, lots of great information. Go to the website. She's here for you guys. Bridget is here for you, and she's a phenomenal human being and wants to serve and wants to help you. So any last words for our listeners?
Get a good night of sleep, everyone.
That's a good one. That is a good one, because that is something, again, for me, like, again, I wasn't sleeping when I was in the middle of the shit. I was up all night because my brain was and I was crapping my pants, right? Yep. So that is a great, I really like that as a piece of advice. Yeah. Well, it has been a treat to have you on the show again. Thanks for coming on. Yep. Thanks for sharing all the info again. And guys, go follow, like, subscribe, sign up for Bridget's newsletter, and you guys will be in the know too. I hope you have an awesome rest of your day.
Thank you, Nikki. You too.
Well, that's it for today, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in, listening, giving me your time, your energy, and your attention. I completely appreciate it. Make sure you check out our next episode with another badass female first responder anywhere you get your favorite podcasts. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook at bluelinefitnesstesting.com. I hope you stay safe, keep your head on a swivel, and watch your six.